And their friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. And that is your executive producer, Huck, sleeping on the job, wanting a raise, demanding attention. Oh, yes. That is the dog. She's a good pup. She's a good pup. Yeah. Yeah, she's a good pup. Yeah, she's a good dog. Yeah, she's a good girl. Yeah, she's a good girl. Yeah, you know I love you. Yes. You got a lot of fans. Yes, you do. They're all saying woof, woof, woof to you. She's a good girl. So she's going to hang in there. That's the new poster for Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State. March 21st, Tacoma Convention Center. Get your tickets at missing411.com. So this is a continuation of the Marin County cluster. And oh, these are good ones, folks. And I don't mean they're sad cases, but blow your mind. So get your coffee, get your tea, get your warm water, put your feet up, get your almond croissant, blueberry muffin, poppy seed muffin, and relax. Got a couple letters to read to you here. Dear Mr. Paulides, I just wanted to offer my sympathy for you for the loss of your dad. A friend once told me that when your parents are gone, you feel like an orphan sometimes, no matter how old you happen to be. I found this to be true. I hope you can reflect on the good memories you have with your dad, along with your friends. Mr. Harvey Pratt was so talented, which was so evident in many of your books. He will be greatly missed. Oh, yes, he will be. He is. Scott Carpenter seems like such a Southern gentleman. He was. Kind and soft-spoken. I've enjoyed his books as well. I know it was a shock to lose him. That was the shock of all times. I have two cases of missing 411 that have been closest to my heart. Are Jared Adadero and the Martin boy here in Tennessee. So terrible that these are many of the families of the missing have gone through for years and even decades. The only thing about these deaths that can give some consolation is that now Mr. Pratt and the father of Jared Adadero, Alan, and Scott Carpenter know what happened. And that is now happening in our world. Yeah, now they know all the secrets, that's for sure. On a positive note, I'm really enjoying your series of videos on giants. I have all your books except the last two. And your book on the videos on giants are absolutely fascinating. Thank you. I was so proud to be able to take my children to one of the Smithsonian museums, plus the two aviation museums a couple years ago. Now, though, it's more than disappointing to realize that Americans from the Smithsonian have been around and must have been so thrilled and excited to find bones and artifacts from the giants. The idea that this information could be kept from us is a crime. Amen. I hope you know that your hard work and research is more appreciated than the villagers can say. The information you supply to us is important. How can anyone not be interested in the mysteries? Sincerely, Vanessa. Thanks, Vanessa. Much appreciated. Hey, Dave. My name is Sandra. I live in Florida. My husband and I attended the Bigfoot conference in Ocala, Florida. At that time, I handed you an envelope with information about UFO sightings in New Hampshire. I remember. I just turned blankety blank years old. Oh, you're still young. I'm a Christian, but I have always walked a path with awareness of what is seen and not seen. When I was a youngster, my grandfather would point his finger at me and say, "Don't you ever forget your great-grandmother was a giant Indian with a double row of teeth." I thought he was only joking, and since I saw your segments on giants, I wondered if it was true. My grandfather Joe had a reddish skin and looked like an Indian on the nickel. The internet on my phone, there was a giants everywhere. Maybe you could point me in the right direction to find out who she was. I wish I could, but no idea. So thank you for those letters, you guys. Trust me, I read everyone. You guys are great people. You are appreciated. And now on to the Marin County disappearances. So I've talked to you about a series of these. This one involves two ladies. Of course it's ladies. The majority are ladies, right? First one is a woman named Magdalena Glinkoski, 33 years old, missing March 30th, 2014. She recently moved to Menlo Park. Menlo Park is a suburb of, say, Palo Alto, south of San Francisco in the Bay Area, just north of San Jose. Nice area. A lot of startup ventures in that area. She was a software developer. Raised in Maryland. Parents lived in the Boston area. She was brilliant. She was previously employed by MIT and a company called Purple Encoding in the Bay Area. She recently moved here from Seattle. She got down into the Bay, moved here, I'm saying, this is where she was at, in the Bay Area. Moved down from Seattle. Rented a car while she got her feet established. And then she was going to buy a car, but she was renting a car in the meantime. On March 30th, she left a note for her roommate saying she was going to go on a hike. She drove her rental car to Mount Tamalpais. So that meant she drove north from Menlo Park through San Francisco, across the Golden Gate Bridge, into Marin County, and towards Mount Tamalpais. And she parked at what was called the Boot Jack parking lot. At 12:40 in the afternoon, she was caught on closed-circuit TV crossing the parking lot in this photo. She was wearing running shorts, a bright pink sweatshirt, running shoes. And she was alone. So that was on March 30th. On April 4th, rangers noticed her rental car parked there for several days and notified the Marin County Sheriff. Deputies contacted the rental car agency to figure out who it was rented to. It was Magdalena. They ended up contacting her cell phone, which of course she didn't answer. And then they tracked backwards to find out who she may be related to and reach out to relatives. Search and rescue was quickly organized, utilizing dogs, helicopters, 100 ground searchers, and they focused on a 2-mile radius within the area she parked her car. Now, we've talked about this area a lot. So here's Stinson Beach, something that comes up all the time. Directly east of Stinson Beach, the Boot Jack parking lot. The Mountain Home Inn, this is a distance of about a mile. This is the east peak of Mount Tamalpais. This area was all hiking area for Tamalpais Woods. Got it? So as the search was going on, they were focusing on these 2 miles radius from her car. The first day that the SAR went out, they got little publicity. They thought they'd find her quickly. She was probably hurt somewhere. They didn't think much of it. And as the SAR went into day 6 and 7, the publicized version of what was going on started to gain some momentum. Started to get into newspapers, nightly news. Canines were involved. They hadn't picked up any scent. On April 11th, 7 days of searching, they got nothing. And the SAR was termed with Magdalena's sister on site. She'd come out from Boston to help in the search, our East Coast. It's always devastating when a search and rescue is shut down because they're giving up any hope that you're alive. That was on April 11th. And the termination of that search got huge publicity. The next day, April 12th, a trail hiker named Ryan Hartnick saw the news publicized the night of the 11th. And he saw that photo of Magdalena publicized and shown on the nightly news. And he recognized her. He called the Marin sheriff and told an interesting story. He stated that on March 30th, he drove from Larkspur, where he lived, up to Tamalpais, parked his car, and started to hike. He said he was about a half a mile from the parking lot that Magdalena parked her car in, and he was going downhill on a trail. As he went around the turn, she was coming uphill, and he said, honestly, we were both had probably a shocked look on our face because we turned the corner and boom, we were in each other's face. He said he was absolutely positive it was her. The deputies asked him to come in and show them on a map or meet them out on the trail. And he met them at the parking lot, showed them on a trail map where she was last seen. The Marin sheriffs had already called for search and rescue personnel to respond. And the one team that they could get there was the Contra Costa County Search and Rescue on the other side of the bay. Responded. They were there in a couple hours. And they were asked to focus on this area where Magdalena was last seen. Well, Contra Costa County came out and they brought canines with them. Shh, you're scaring the people. Well, maybe you're waking them up, so that might be a good thing. Hey, it's okay. So as they're searching in the area where she was last seen, hey, they found a body right near where Ryan saw her. It was a half mile from the parking lot. Sheriff's deputies came over. They never said what they found her wearing. What they said was this quote from Lieutenant Doug Pittman from the Marin County Sheriff's Office. Quote, "It's unusual for people to travel these areas, which would explain as to why she hadn't been located. She was found by a Contra Costa County search team. She was on a trail when last seen per Ryan. So why weren't all of these trails checked? And if they were checked, why wasn't she seen, at least by the helicopter that was doing the checks, because she was wearing a bright pink sweatshirt?" The sheriffs removed her body and sent it to the coroner. Remember a long time ago I told you local reports for local consumption? Well, sit down for this one. I shook it and I just read I can't believe what I honestly just read. The coroner said that Magdalena died of environmental exposure with hypothermia. What kind of word salad is that? I read this and I immediately thought she must have broken her leg and couldn't move and just laid there for days and eventually died from exposure. That's the only thing I could think. Because she saw a man on the trail. She never said anything like she was concerned or lost or anything. Never approached him like that. A half mile from her car. She couldn't have been that tired, folks. She hiked regularly. She liked hiking alone. So she's found right near where she was last seen. Why didn't she just keep hiking? You don't lay down and just die. No, nobody does that. Nobody that's healthy does that. I'm sorry. Coroner said, now this is the part where it gets even more bizarre, that the body was absent physical injury or toxicological factors that led to her death, which means she had no injuries to the body and she had nothing in her system, drug, alcohol, poison-wise, that would take her life. She was sober, healthy, fine, able to move. They also said she was unfamiliar with the area and unprepared for a prolonged hike. What? A half mile from the car? A prolonged hike? I'm sorry, folks. This is absolutely gobbledygook. And he said that there was nothing to indicate foul play. Extended hike, what is he talking about? She left in the afternoon. The other hiker saw her. What is he talking about? I want to know what her stomach contents were. So if her stomach was completely void of anything, that meant that maybe she died 2 or 3 days after she was seen. But they never told us. She was a healthy, hiking, 33-year-old lady. The implication is they're giving us that she just laid down and died. Didn't move and died of hypothermia. Kind of reminds me of GHB and getting dropped, doesn't it? Giddy up. Yes, giddy up. Now, Magdalena was found on April 12th, 13 days after going missing. Found in a location that should have been searched before. The canines that they brought in should have found her. She was a trail runner, a subgroup of the missing, found in a cluster zone. Now, when I read this case, I knew right away that something was wrong. I just knew it. Everybody in Missing 411 world knows this case something's really wrong with it. Exactly. Well, I'm sure Marin County thought that their search and rescue teams could take a break for the rest of April. Incorrect. Again, Magdalena's found on April 12th. 4 days later, they have another emergency on their hand. Marie Sanner, 50 years old, missing April 16th, 2014. 1 mile away from where Magdalena was found. 1 mile. Magdalena's found within half mile of the Boot Jack parking lot. Marie parked her car across the street from the Mountain Home Inn and was found uphill from that position an eighth of a mile away. Oh, but that's not the end of the story. Marie, 5 days after, is born in Long Beach, California, April 21st, 64. In 1966, she moved to Mill Valley with her brother and her family. She attended Our Lady Mount Carmel School. In 82, she graduated from Tamalpais High School. She played 4 years of basketball. 86, she graduated from Colorado College with a bachelor's degree in art. She studied overseas for a while in Perugia, Italy, came home and ended up working for a while at Living Foods in Mill Valley. In 92, she obtained her bilingual teaching credential from San Francisco State, and then became a teaching assistant at the Old Mill Valley School. From 93 to 98, she taught elementary school in Greenfield, That's in the Salinas Valley. That's a pretty low-income area. And in 98, she came back and taught at the Hawthorne Elementary School in the Fruitvale School District of Oakland. And then the last few years, she was teaching in Oakland for the Thinking College Now program, an elementary school program to get kids into college, thinking about college at a younger age. Hobbies, she was an accomplished flamenco dancer. This is Marie. She was an expressive painter, talented tennis player, avid hiker, loved to hike, hiked her whole life, spent much of her life hiking in the area by Tamalpais. And friends and family and people who knew her said she was a passionate teacher, described as a sweet, compassionate, giving soul. The type we need more in this world, wouldn't you say? She had taught almost her entire life at underprivileged schools. On April 16th, Marie drove to the Mountain Home Inn on Mount Tamalpais, parked her car across the street, and met a friend. The friend and Marie eventually, it appears they went into the inn, had a few drinks, came out, hit the trail, and Marie had brought her best friend, Fiona. Fiona is a German Shepherd, brought her everywhere. And as the pair decided to hike the trail, it was getting dark, and her friend had a car in another area. Marie had her car in a different direction, so they split up on the trail to go different directions to their cars. Fiona was still with Marie. Now, I know what you're thinking. Point of separation, right? Something happened here. Oh yeah, something happened here. They split up, and the next day, someone's in the parking lot across the street from the inn and notices this really nice German Shepherd dog sitting next to a car. It was Fiona, sitting next to their car, Marie's car. This very nice citizen read the collar, called the phone number on it, and it was to Marie's dad. Explained where they were, and the dad said, "Oh, that's Fiona, that's Marie's dog. She loved that dog to death. She would never leave it." So the father drove up, saw Marie's car in the parking lot, saw Fiona, immediately called the Marin County Sheriff's Office. He called Marie's phone multiple times, didn't get an answer. He knew something serious was happening. Marie's dad told the sheriff that responded that his daughter loved Fiona. They were an inseparable pair. Now, the dad didn't know what Marie was doing there, but knew that she would come up there all the time to hike, so he didn't know that she might have been hiking with somebody else, didn't know the circumstances. But she went there all the time to hike, knew that area like you know your own neighborhood. The deputy knew something was really wrong, and he immediately called for a search and rescue team to respond and called for more assistance. Well, he got several other deputies to respond, and what they decided to do was to leave that trail that was right there next to the parking lot, hike up it, see how far that they could get, see what they could find. It's called a hasty search. So the deputies take off, and they're about an eighth of a mile from her car, just barely down the trail at all. Above the car, above the highway, but on the trail. Now, on April 19th, 2014, on a website called San Francisco Gate. The headlines are, 2 women die on Tamalpais. One knew the area very well. Then it said that Marie Sanders spent her years hiking these trails of Mount Tamalpais. They said that her body was found along Fern Creek at the base of a steep drainage. And it was west of the popular Matt Davis hiking trail. Seems weird. I'm sorry. The coroner's report came in that said Sanders died of blunt force trauma and injury to her head from a fall off the trail. They went on to say that the investigation revealed a combo of factors. Number 1, a lack of ambient light. Number 2, unfamiliarity with the trail. And that is not true, because she had hiked these trails for her whole life. I don't know why they put that in. Local reports for local consumption. They also said that there was a presence of alcohol in her system, and there was nothing that developed during the investigation that showed foul play. Possibility someone pushed her off the trail? No, that didn't come up. She was dropped down the trail? No, that didn't come up. She was just walking along and fell off the trail. That's what they're saying. So, let's get back to this. Some facts. Marie and Magdalena were found 1 mile apart from each other. Both were hiking alone. Magdalena left people in that parking lot. Magdalena left somebody on that trail that she had seen. Marie left somebody on the trail she had seen. Point of separation for both. Marie's found adjacent to Fern Creek. Both women were single professionals. They disappeared within 17 days of each other. Both were Caucasian females. Nobody saw or heard anything. This area, folks, very popular for hiking. Marie graduated from Tamalpais High School, grew up hiking the trails in the area, and gave her life to underprivileged children. What I did is now I've presented to you in this cluster 2 different miniature clusters of 2 women missing in each cluster. Right? Remember that? I went backwards in time. 75 years. I could find nothing. Nothing similar to what these 2 incidents, the one in Point Reyes and this one. In both cases, women were missing in very close proximity to one another. Now, it should remind you of the Catherine Pruitt-Sylvia Lang case at Point Reyes. The press in San Francisco at the time never put these 4 cases together. They did recognize the oddity in both sets of 2 women missing in close proximity and geographical location. But they never were able to say, in Marin County we have 4 women that disappeared. 2 were found, 2 were not. But no men. It's pretty strange. So that local reports for local consumption, I think, is bang up true. Now, California usually does not release a lot of information on coroner reports. I think the reason they released the small amount they did on these cases is that there was a lot of concern. Again, they had the trailside killer in Marin County at one point, decades earlier, that was killing people on the trail, and I think that right away people started thinking, we have another killer out there? Well, if you look at Magdalena's case, and you look at Marie's case, both were on a trail. Both were found off the trail. Magdalena down a wash, and Marie next to a creek off the trail. Magdalena, remember this, had no alcohol in her system. No evidence she was hiking at night. So how did she end up off the trail when they try to use the same analogy on Marie? Oh, she was hiking at night and just went off the trail. Magdalena did. Why? And this really gets me really mad. Why aren't the detectives asking the hard questions on Marie's case? How did she get off trail? 1. 2. If you're trying to get us to believe she just laid there and died of hypothermia, I'm sorry, I'm not that much of an idiot. And neither are you guys. You guys are smart. If you live in Marin County, you ought to get on the Marin County Sheriff's Office and ask them these tough questions. Right? And if they search for Magdalena for 7 days and she's within a half mile of her car, how is she missed? Come on. Even the canines should have smelled her. The helicopter should have seen that bright pink sweatshirt. Or she wasn't there, right? I hate to keep coming back to that, but I do not believe that search and rescue is that inept. No, I don't. I don't believe a dog's nose is that faulty. I'm sorry. I think that something was happening in Marin County in that April timeframe of 2014. Same thing, something was happening in Point Reyes when 2 women disappeared. Catherine Truitt and Sylvia Lang, those cases cannot be forgotten as well. Yet, you will not read anything about this in Bay Area papers. Nobody cares. Swept it up. It's over and done with. You are appreciated. Remember, kindness is key. Costs nothing to be kind. Costs nothing. And right now there's a lot of mental illness, a lot of people mentally compromised. Time to give them a break sometimes. Show some compassion, some empathy. Be safe. Paulides out.